You watch Dragon Ball Z? By any chance?
Yeah, a little bit, a
He,
little bit.
he Anthony Joshua came in like Trunks when he went to the Ascendant form. He was way too bulky. You're not gonna beat me by powering up, boy. Welcome back to another edition of Gen Sports Corner, back at you for 6/27/2022. I'm your host, Jen. This is my co-host. Introduce yourself, sir.
How's it going, folks? My name is Tyce. Met with Jen, worked with him for a while down in Philadelphia area, coming to you live from Providence, of which there's a little rainy outside today, but not too bad on our end.
My man, my
Yeah.
man. So, you know, there's been a lot of big fights that have been going on this past year, really. And there's a couple of big ones that are coming up. So, two big announcements. The first fight we're going to talk about is Oleksandr Usyk versus Anthony Joshua in the rematch from the first banger. It's going down August the 20th out in Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Oh
So, hey,
wow.
man, we got a heavy hitter there. So, what do you think about this? What did you think about the first fight? And what are you kind of expecting going into the next fight?
Refresh me a little bit for those watching. What were we looking at for the record for that first fight there?
Now that first fight, you had Usyk. He had moved up to heavyweight about a year and a half prior. Had like two fights there, and then he got the matchup against Joshua. So you had the Tyson Fury Wilder, trilogy. So they were going doing their thing with the WBC belt, and then Anthony Joshua, he avenged his loss against Andy Ruiz and got all three of his belts back, and then eventually got matched up with Alexander Usyk. Now nobody really heard of Usyk. I mean, he was you know, if you're a casual, but he was the first. Was he the first undisputed cruiserweight of all time? He might have been, but he was undisputed at cruiserweight, so he moved up to get a challenge, and he got the shot at the belts, and he came in and he did his thing. Joshua looked good. It was a very good fight for the first 6 rounds, and then Usyk made the adjustments and he started pulling away, and he almost got Anthony Joshua up out of there in the 12th round. So, and then he got the unanimous decision victory. And I mean, he's got three belts now. So this is where we're at now in the present.
Let's see. I mean, my main thing so far from my time for the record, Jen here is he knows his stuff. He's through it all, and he's the one who got me into boxing for the most part. So when we're talking here, my gentleman here to probably your left side is going to be the subject matter expert here for the most part. But with regard to this fight, what I'm saying is I'm coming at you all as kind of new around here.
So
So if you hear me talking off for a little bit, or it seems like I'm talking at my rear end for a little bit, fair enough.
nah, it's
You will not. If I know something's out of my depth, I'm not going to comment on it. But from my limited time having watching Joshua so far, I mean, the first time I ever saw his fight was his the first go round with Ruiz. I'm
okay.
sure everyone caught that one because it even got to people like me who was outside the boxing world at the time. Because you wouldn't have pictured that fight going the way it did with Ruiz being able to take that. And then, of course, now with the second matchup, we all caught that one because I was really interested in seeing Ruiz if he could pull it off a second time. Uh, yeah, it wasn't likely with the amount of preparation work he put into that. Somehow he managed to roll up looking a little rounder, a little slower, and Joshua managed to figure it out because everyone, even for me, could see that man was bulked, man was ripped. Man's got a real impressive stature, but all that muscle was getting in the way, and he was really gassed himself out there in a while. So he comes back, he looked a little slimmer, looked a little lighter, and he was able to adjust for that second time around, as well as just being able to work around. He must have had a decent sparring partner who could mimic Ruiz there pretty well because he was able to, I think, shut that down pretty easily. Rami, again, I don't think that second go around ended in a KO, but it went the distance, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The way your response there, you're not a novice, man. That's that's more in depth and detailed than most people are going to give it. That's exactly what happened. He came back. You watch Dragon Ball Z by any chance?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
He Anthony Joshua came in like Trunks when he went to the Ascendant form. He was way too bulky. You're not gonna beat me by powering up, boy. And he came back slimmer the second time around, and he just looked way better, man. He actually boxed. Like he showed that Olympic pedigree instead of coming in like, you know, with 500
Going up
pounds of muscle.
like a Mr. Universe or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Broke another one, boss. I can't stop breaking them. Nah, he came in. Yeah, so he looked really good. And I think that's one of the mistakes that he made coming into this Usyk fight, kind of segueing off of what you said. He didn't come in extra bulky, but the him being the bigger man fighting the smaller yet highly skilled man, that weight really started to wear on him. Like I saw him throwing the jab and he looked like kind of tired in round 6, 7. I was like, you can't do that against Usyk. This dude's not. He's different.
I mean, that's always going to be your issue there, especially now we're getting up to the heavyweight sizes.
Yeah.
Like the bigger man, like it's power. No one's going to be lacking power up here at this weight class. But what people are going to have in terms of differences, it's going to be that gamesmanship. It's going to be those differences in technique. It's to be a difference to read your opponent, adapt, like you mentioned earlier. But now there's plenty to be said as well, just about being able to go a distance and about being able to pace yourself as well. You don't need to be seeing people as heavy as you are. You might be really, really able to get everything into those punches. You might have really genuinely have that knockout power, or at least enough to kind of pop through a guard. But if you're
Right.
getting too tired to throw those punches, like you said, between the sixth and the seventh, you're not going to go very far.
We
Especially not
saw it
for a
with
man who's demonstrably a little bit lighter on his feet and definitely a bit more agile.
we saw the exact opposite with Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury being a guy, he doesn't look like he boxes or plays any type of sport, but he's a
He
fighter's
looks like he
fighter.
watches. I could easily see that man rolling up to like the soccer pitch, like a rugby game, and is chilling out in the stands with like a Miller Lite in each hand.
Yeah, and they just walk up to him and say, "Yo, you trying to make $1 million tonight?" You're like, "Yeah, sure, man. Hold my beer," and just walks in there and just, yeah. I mean, he don't look like he do road work or whatnot. Obviously, he trains, but like he's just one of his whole family tree is just full of fighters, from him to his dad to his brother. You kind of look like Tommy Fury, by the way, man. I kind of think of that from time to time. Tommy Fury's fighting
Yeah, he's
Jake Paul.
yeah, Jake Paul had coming up and didn't oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. I saw a little clip of it not too long ago, but I think Bass Rutten said that he was willing to corner for Tommy. Isn't that right?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't read that. I didn't read it because I just don't care about the fight. But
We'll get let's stay on this topic for now, but I do want to kind of poke your brain a little bit in case you haven't talked about it already over a little bit more of what we've seen these last couple of years, like the influencers, celebrity fighting down the line, just to get you a bit of your opinion. But
yeah, we'll circle
uh,
back to that before we get too much off topic. But the whole point of talking about Deontay Wilder and Fury, Fury was the bigger man, came in heavier, but like his frame is built to handle that weight. 275 to 290 is not a big deal for him, but going from 210 to 238, huge deal for Deontay Wilder. So he was the smaller man, yet he gassed out because he put on weight that he had never got a chance to handle or get used to his entire life.
that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, once you're getting up to that, I guess to those weights, it's kind of becoming a question of how much of that is you building yourself out, not just for like the mirror muscles, but how much is that building yourself up outside of your frame and outside of, like you said, the mobility and the agility that you've had and gotten accustomed to like your entire life. And
Right.
yeah, with Fury, he's got moves. He's got some snap to his punches.
The dude was at one point, I think, up to 400 pounds. So for him to, when he was out, out of the ring and going through his personal problems, so for him to get back in shape and then come back down to 270, even just going up to 290, 300 is not going to be nothing to him. He's been way heavier than that. He knows what it's like. Deontay Wilder
That's
has
true.
no
That's true.
clue what it's like to be 240, right? Like you put on weight, and because I've done it before, I'm not a big guy, but like for me, going from like 140 ballooning up to 160, which is a lot for me. I could feel it in my knees. I couldn't punch as fast. I couldn't. My agility wasn't as high as it was before. Just like those little 5 pound increments matter so
Mhm.
much. So
Definitely.
he came in at 231 in the second fight, and he was gassing. So what in the world made him and his team think that putting on another 7 pounds of, even if it's muscle, was going to make it any easier on him? Like if you didn't get the KO in the first 3 rounds, and that seemed like there was their game plan, you were going to gas out. You kind of, they gambled and they lost. I think it was a calculated move, but it wasn't smart in my opinion, because you just aren't a good enough boxer to be able to Tyson Fury 6'9", 290, man. Like he's the one dude that's been bigger than you. Like, yeah, you knock everybody else out, but when he got up like the Undertaker in that first fight, you kind of knew that you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna,
yeah,
be able to just
yeah.
blast this guy
Maybe
out.
maybe that was their strategy going into that. It was like, all right, you clearly have the knockdown power.
Mm-hmm.
You can clearly at some point make the opportunity and land that shot and get it clean that can put him down to the mat. Now, how much more do you need in order to get him to stay on the mat when you connect next time?
Exactly. And on the flip
But like you
side,
said, maybe it doesn't work for someone like me. We're talking, I guess, some pretty sound logic so far, but maybe it comes to some of those fires where you just got to throw it out the window. I think Tyson Fury is a great example of that.
yeah, yeah, and in going to the rematch, not only does Deontay Wilder know that okay, maybe I can get a little extra edge by putting on the weight. Tyson Fury also knows that I took his best shot. If he puts on a little bit more weight, I can heal
You
this.
could probably eat it. You could
That's
probably
why
eat it.
he walked his ass down in the second fight. He's like, I can take this guy's punch. So interesting like dichotomy between putting on weight, the bigger guy gassing out against the little guy, and then conversely, the little guy gassing out against the bigger guy. They're both trying to
Yeah.
get bigger for different reasons. So you have to wonder what adjustments Joshua is going to make going into the second fight. If I were him, I would slim down and I would focus on making sure that I'm able to pump that jab for 12 rounds.
Correct me if I'm right. That's the background image you got right there on Zoom. Is that right?
It,
Is the
it
the
is.
last is most recent face off?
Yep, Mr. Usyk and
Mm-hmm.
then Mr. Joshua. I mean, so
I mean, looking at the two of them now side by side, because Frank, just so the fans are aware, I didn't catch the first fight. I don't want to talk out my rear end off and make conjecture over something that I don't know as much about. But looking at it right here, I would assume just off the stance, Joshua's clearly got height advantage. He's probably got a reach advantage, maybe at least maybe like
yeah, I'm
one to
glad
two
you
inches.
asked
I would
that. I
assume.
have to tell you to say right here. So you have Anthony Joshua, 32 years old, Usyk 35. I'll go from left to right, Joshua to Usyk. 32 years old versus 35. Joshua is 26 and 2 with 24 and 2 with 22 knockouts. Very good knockout rate. Usyk is 19 and 0, 13 knockouts. And then height, Joshua is 6'6, Usyk is 6'3. And then Joshua has a 4-inch reach advantage. On top of that, Joshua is orthodox, whereas Usyk is a southpaw, which is another reason why he had a lot of issues with him in that first fight.
That does make a lot of sense. Hmm. I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see, like you said. I think Joshua looking to slim down a little bit. If he
Yeah,
was looking a little slow and looking a little gas, his obviously would be my first move is continue get on that, continue getting cardio, and continue just planning not for a knockout strategy, but then just aiming to be like, can I go the distance this often? The second thing is like you got to find. I mean, when you're one of the biggest names in the world for boxing, when you're one of the contenders, when you've been a belt holder at some point in your life, and especially now you're going again looking for reclaiming what was yours before, you got to have at least a crew and a corner that can put together a couple of decent southpaw fighters for you to spar off against. And if
yeah.
you know that you're being working off of Usyk in the future, you got nothing but time to figure that out and find a good sparring partner. I would hope. Correct me unless I like mix the styles up there just now.
No, you didn't. But I think the issue is just like with the Manny Pacquiao, you can find southpaw sparring opponents, but it's hard to find a guy to replicate Usyk. He's just
Right.
he's something different, man. Him, Lomachenko, Pacquiao, like those guys, you can often replicate it, never duplicate it. You know what I mean? So you get in there with a bunch of southpaws, you get the experience, and then you get in the ring with Usyk, and then he has a plan A, B, and C, D, E, F, G. Like you know what I mean, like all the way to Z. So that's really the issue here because he has the height advantage, the reach advantage, but you're going against a southpaw who has like a surgeon's mind when it comes to boxing, and he's really good at adjusting on the fly. Really good jab, really good head movement. So it's like it's a rough one because he don't really have like a lot of power. So that was my big concern with Usyk coming up. I'm like at 185, nobody's fucking with this dude, but at heavyweight, I'm like I don't know if you got the power, man. But
So this be Usyk's first defense, but like second fight now at heavyweight.
this he had two fights at heavyweight. He had one against this guy, I think Isaac Chisora. Isaac Chisora is like he's solid, he's nothing special, more like a gatekeeper, but he's heavy handed and he's the type of guy you don't knock out. He's just like, even when you beat him, you're sore in the ice tub the next day. He's like that type of dude. So when he was able to, he kind of had some issues against him because like he was hitting him solid, but like he wasn't able to move him back, right? So I was like on the fence. I'm like, skill wise, he's better than everybody. The only person that would be comparable at heavyweight, like IQ wise, would be a Tyson Fury, I believe. But power wise, I didn't know, but he took Joshua's punches very well too. He got hit with some solid punches from Joshua. He took them. I'm like, okay, you got the chin, and you're able to have just enough steam on your punches to give Joshua pause, where he just doesn't want to jump in because he's like, I don't want to get lit up. So, um, he's proven it at heavyweight now. He belongs, and not only does he belong, but he got 3 titles and he won that fight convincingly.
So we talked a little bit so far about what how Joshua should be adapting if we want to see him do well here.
Yeah,
And like I said, like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be hard to replicate someone of that stature and that quality.
right.
At the same time, Usyk's 19-0, and like you mentioned, he's demonstrated himself. He's proven himself to be there. But we've seen that a big upset with Lomachenko and Teo. It can be
But
done. It can be done. It's
yeah,
possible.
it's a very good comparison. Um,
Because
yeah,
again, like there's no one in the world who can do what Lomachenko does. Nobody.
no,
But I felt like we just saw either a bad day in the Lomachenko camp and a great day with Teofimo's corner right there, and the coaching and the strategy they picked up for most of that fight. And that looked really well. It doesn't help that Lomachenko was nursing an injury and was trying to and decided to finally turn it on with 5 rounds left to go out of 12.
right, exactly, and that's why he lost. I had Loma losing 7-5. I had it 6-5 Teo going into the 12th round, and then Teo was able to get that 12th round. Um, but yeah, he was the bigger guy. He used the reach, and yeah, I think it was purely a weight thing. And hats off to Teo. So same thing with Joshua. If I was Anthony Joshua, I would use my jab, use my reach, and really just work on my conditioning. I don't think you're necessarily going to outbox Usyk. He's really a mastermind, like in a similar mode as Lomachenko. If you see some of the things he does, like look up some highlights, you'll see. But if you're able to use your reach and your jab, I think you'll be able to set yourself up nicely going into the later rounds to be able to try to step on the gas and take those belts back.
Yeah,
Or, yeah,
good strat for
that's
his corner.
I mean, that's what I would do if I was Joshua. And then Usyk,
Yeah, I was about to say. So we've talked a little bit so far about Joshua.
yeah.
Think Usyk? Would you even recommend he do anything different going into this, or does he have to kind
Um,
of think ahead to try to counter whatever strategy he thinks Joshua is going to try to turn around on?
I
Because
would,
Joshua, and
yeah,
he's a champion in his own right, and we've already seen that he can learn.
right.
He absolutely shut down Ruiz in that their second matchup. But do you think Usyk is that far out of everyone's league to kind of pull that one off? Can you really not truly adjust to him, or you just kind of have to bank on him having a bad night?
Yeah, bank on him having a bad night. But if I was Usyk, the only thing I would try to improve is my punching power. That's the only thing I would try to improve. Just try to add just enough where you can hurt him at points. Other than that, I mean, there's really nothing to add. His head movement is phenomenal. Defense phenomenal. Footwork crazy. So yeah.
Right on, right on. Now I got another guy's highlight reel I got to check out here later on tonight.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love him, man. Alexander Usyk, man, is just one of my favorite fighters, man. He's really phenomenal. Um, so that's that fight. I mean, right now, my prediction is that Usyk is going to win the rematch by decision, but I'll give a full prediction once we get closer to the fight. Once we see them in training camp, seeing how they look, then you'll have like more of a, especially like you see them on a scale, like are they in shape, so on and so forth. Then I'll have a better sense of whether I change my mind on it or not. But that's it for that fight.